we'll go ahead and move on into our special presentation for this evening. And I wanted to go ahead and introduce to you guys Sarah Hamrick, and she is with CAPS, Counseling and Psychological Services, as a clinical services provider. Sarah, are you on?
I am. Hi. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can. And I'm going to stop sharing screen, and you should be able to share if you have any content.
Sure.
Moment. There we go.
Okay. And the first thing I just wanted to check in, I know Steph had sent along the, excuse me, I'm getting over some cold. Steph had sent over the student mental health services video. Did folks get a chance to watch that and have questions? I am going to go over our basic services, so don't worry. But I'm curious if people have like specific questions that they want to start with.
And if there are none currently, we always have that questions at the end for you as well.
Okay. Yeah, we can do it that way. Let me get. All right. Give me just 1 second here. Alrighty, so what I'll do this evening is just do a quick overview of our services, and I'll leave plenty of time for questions at the end. I think most people have heard of us. I do want to differentiate. There are several different mental health services on campus. There's something called the HER Clinic, which is in the Cedar building, and that's run by master's level students that are supervised, but they're not part of our system. And then there's the Psychological Clinic out of the Moore building, which is more community based. Students do sometimes utilize it, but a lot of times people will come and be, I'll get a phone call when I'm clinician on duty and people will be unhappy about something or a service. And once I clarify, I'll realize it's not actually CAPS they're talking about. And so I just like to, I've learned at the beginning of these presentations, just to let people know there are a couple different mental health services on campus. So what I'll be talking about today is us. We're counseling and psychological services. We have 3 different locations. One is in the Student Health Center, one is in the Bank of America building, which is right across. And then we have one space downtown in the Allen Way building. There's just so many of our staff. There's about 50 of us that we simply all couldn't fit in one space. So, but kind of our main hub is the 5th floor of the Student Health Center. And can everyone see this see this slide? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So I'd like to just start off, the most relevant up-to-date information is always on our website. So always check that out if you want to. And I'm just going to dive into what services we offer. We offer a slew of different services. I think there's a big misconception that our services are only counseling, just short-term, just individual counseling, but we actually do a lot more. We offer something called CAPS Chat, which is virtual for now. We're hopeful to go back to in-person next semester. And it's every single day of the week at multiple times during the day. And you can sign up online through our website. Any student can come to this. Any Penn State student can come to this. And CAPS Chat is an opportunity to connect with a therapist one-on-one, generally for about half an hour, to talk about like a quick concern, like how do I help a friend? Or I really want to talk about how to deal with this specific part of my anxiety. It's not meant to be like ongoing counseling. It really is, hey, I need some guidance. I want to do a little more than a phone call, but I don't feel like I need to see a therapist like more than once for this. It could be a great way to just get some resources or ask some clarifying questions. A lot of people come to CAPS Chat to figure out how to help their friend who's struggling. So that's a great use of it. And there's almost always spots. I've never had a student complain that there wasn't a spot open for CAPS Chat, and you can sign up as, we go in 30-minute slots. So if you sign up at 3:28 for a 3:30 spot, that spot's yours. We offer a couple of different clinics, and these are skills-based clinics, like where you learn some basic skills, whether that's emotional regulation skills, whether that's anxiety management skills. Those generally run about 4 consecutive weeks and about a variety of topics, perfectionism, anxiety, emotional regulation, things like that. We also provide ongoing semester-long process groups of a lot of different kinds. I personally run 2 different eating disorder recovery groups. We offer graduate process groups. That's one of our most popular group options for graduate students. And students tend to like that because that's something they can stay in long term. And those run every semester. Some groups even run in the summer. And those can also be more than just process. There's like an empowerment group for sexual assault survivors. There's a lot of different group options. Again, it's always a great idea to check out our website for the most up-to-date offerings. And if I'm happy to answer at the end if people have questions about a specific offering too. We do offer short-term individual counseling. We had been primarily doing teletherapy, but we're slowly moving back to in-person. So people, as of right now, have the option of which service feels like the better option for them right now. Short-term, most students, if we look at the data, on average attend 3 to 4 counseling sessions with us, but we can go up to 6, sometimes a little more, depending on if you work that out with your individual therapist. And so it's not meant for like long-standing intense concerns, but for folks who are coping with, general stress. I'll get to our crisis services in a minute, so please don't think we aren't going to talk about that piece. But we do like to let people know it is short-term, but we do offer individual therapy. There's a lot of myths out there about like, well, what about the wait at CAPS? Yes, there is often a wait for the individual counseling if you don't call right at the beginning of the semester, just because of the demand, but there are other options that you can utilize in the meantime. So I like to make sure that people understand that as well. And that short-term individual counseling, you meet one-on-one with a therapist, either on Zoom or in person, depending on what the 2 of you work out, and generally at the same day and time every week. We also offer case management services. So if a student wants to figure out how to use their insurance to find a long-term provider in the community, like if you are like, hey, I want to find somebody that I can see for years while I complete my graduate degree, our case managers can help you do that. We also offer urgent appointments. I'm going to go over our crisis services in just a minute. And we also offer psychiatric services. Those are psychiatric services are kind of based on the need, and we do an evaluation first. And generally, most folks would need to be in counseling with us to access psychiatric services, but that's not always the case. There's always exceptions. And again, there's often a wait for that as well. I like to be transparent, but not always, and it just depends on the situation. I do want to touch base on crisis for just a minute. So I just talked about our urgent session. So people often say, well, there's a wait. Why even bother calling CAPS? Can they help me right now? Or like you guys have really important roles as TAs, as graduate assistants. You guys often see students in crisis, and you want to be able to help right in that moment. So we do see a lot of crisis students at CAPS. There's a number of different ways to get there. You can walk a student over, you can call us. If a student is in crisis and they are not taking care of themselves, if they are thinking of hurting themselves or thinking of hurting someone else, we're going to see them immediately. Or just if what they are dealing with, they consider a crisis, we're going to help them immediately. And so I don't ever want someone to not call and talk to us if they're in crisis. That's the whole point we exist. We have a whole crisis system where every therapist does several crisis appointments a week. So there's always someone available. We have a rotating staff that just does crisis stuff. And so there's always someone available. So if you have a concern about a student, you can call, you can consult with us. It doesn't mean that you have to bring the student or anything. You can just call and consult with our clinician on duty about how to help your student. Most services at CAPS start with a phone call, and what'll happen when you call for your screening is you'll talk to one of our front desk people. They'll get you scheduled for a screening call. We generally try and get a screening scheduled within 24 to 48 hours. Again, unless it's an immediate, like if it's an urgent issue, we're going to deal with that immediately. But if it's someone who's just interested in services and wants to know more, we'll get you set up for a screening call. And then a screening call, one of our therapists will call you and ask you some questions and then go over our treatment options with you and help you figure out what the best fit for you is. We're open Monday through Friday from 8 to 5, but crisis services are available 24/7. We do have crisis folks that work 24/7. So that's always available, and folks can always call that phone number on this slide. And you can even, if you want to do a text, if you don't feel comfortable calling, we also have a crisis text line, and we can help you figure out what the next best steps would be for you. Let's see, that's kind of the very, very quick gist of our services. I want to make sure I'm happy to answer any detailed questions. Here's some pictures of our general locations, you know, and I mentioned our downtown location, that's the big Allen Way building. Generally, we prefer that you call so we can get you to the right place, but there's nothing wrong with walking in if you need to do that. And I have our website listed. I could also send kind of just a quick email with this information if you'd like, and then you could send that out to everyone. Would that be helpful?
Definitely.
Okay, yeah, that's no problem. The other big thing that I really want to point out that can be really helpful is our red folder. And that's our crisis services kind of access. I'm going to bring that up so you guys can see this. This is a project that took months and months to do, but it's basically a resource for how to help someone in crisis. Can everyone see this?
Still on your PowerPoint?
PowerPoint, okay. I'm going to hit stop share, and I'm going to try a different one. Here we go. Can everyone see that?
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay. This is our red folder, which has options. Basically, you can go through this folder if you're in crisis, or most often it's used for helping a student who's in crisis. That helps folks realize how to recognize when someone's in distress, how to respond appropriately, where to refer a student and how, and to get them the right resources. And this is available to anyone. I will also include this in the email that I send you guys. But that basically goes over some basic quick skills that you can use in the moment: active listening, asking direct questions, talks a little bit about our mandated reporting policy, and talks about how to refer someone to various services. Sometimes we are not the best service. Sometimes there's other places on campus that are a better fit. And this offers some suggestions for that. But if there's a question, it's always okay to call. If you review this and you're like, wait, I have a question, or if you're with a student that's in distress and you want immediate help, please call us. That's what we're there for. So I just wanted folks to be able to have that, to know that that red folder exists. And I'll jump back to this slide. I'll also kind of quickly go over some other services that we offer. We have something called WellTrack, which is an app that offers modules for helping people manage anxiety and depression, and it offers mood tracking. Sometimes students will use that while they wait to start services. Like if they're stable, but they still want to see someone for counseling, that's great. This can be a really great tool to learn some coping mechanisms in the meantime. You at PSU is a good resource that offers lots of resources around Penn State and helps people kind of set goals for things they might want to achieve. They can look up different topics like, hey, how do I connect with other people on campus? How do I explore my career options? We also offer something called Ginger, which is behavioral health coaching. So if someone doesn't quite want to start with counseling, but they don't want to do a group, but they just want some very direct feedback in helping them kind of like manage their anxiety or manage their depression, that could be a really good option. And that's free and offered through our office. So scheduling a screening would help you get connected with that. We have a ton of self-help videos on our website that people are welcome to access. That's available 24/7. And then of course we have I'll include our social media stuff. Again, I'll include this in the email so people can actually access it. But what questions do folks have?
Thank you for that. All right. And we have any questions for Sarah?
I see some hands raised. So can I start with, is it okay if I just call in folks?
No, I think, was it Sean or Matt? I'm so sorry, I can't tell who was first.
Go ahead, Matt.
Okay, I'll start us off. Thanks. Thanks, Sarah, for coming to talk with all of us. Really appreciate you giving some time to the assembly and to our organization. I had a question about whether what is the perspective, or I guess what does CAPS do to communicate some of their resources with faculty on campus, especially with regards to faculty that have graduate student advisees or students working in their labs or with them on research? What is is there any sort of annual communication with faculty advisors about mental health of students, graduate students specifically, or sign like things to look out for, I guess, with their students' behavior over time as the semester and years go on?
That's a great question, Matt. As far as I know, the red folder is given to every faculty member that joins, both virtually, and I think they do their very best to give them a physical copy. I will be truthful and say that I don't know about any other sort of communication, like if there's a regular communication. We do have a monthly newsletter that people can sign up for, and we do offer those consultation services. I think that's a wonderful idea, though, and it's something that we're talking about as we kind of completely overhaul our outreach, because you're not the first person to bring this up, like, hey, how do we kind of proactively start talking to anyone who's interacting with students about how to recognize signs of distress? We have had a huge increase in consultations, which to me is a wonderful thing. It means that that faculty and staff are paying attention to mental health. So I'll say that's something that we're working on, and that new faculty and staff are given this red folder information when they start. And I will ask our outreach director if she can elaborate on anything else that they are pushing out in terms of kind of ongoing, keeping people up to date kinds of things.
Yeah, if I could just follow up on that. I think that oftentimes, or it's possible that, students may not even really understand what's maybe going on, if they are, think this is just part of the experience, or if there is distress that they're not really recognizing. And I think the advisors are in a unique position that they have common contact or a change in behavior that's noticeable in their work patterns that I think could be something that advisors may, would like to know, like how to, read certain signals or common things that could take place that might explain certain behavior or things to look out for, so that they can get students help, maybe even before the student realizes they need the help themselves. Like, it takes a certain amount of energy and effort and self-reflection to realize there's something, an action point needs to be done on the student's perspective. And it's possible an advisor might see a change in behavior or pattern or performance that, is something that could really be beneficial to the student, and the advisor. It's in everyone's best interest for our students to have, as the best mental health that we can. And so it's in. So I think just there's a unique opportunity there, I think, for education of advisors and how they interact with their students, to help the students' mental health. And from personal experience, grad school can be tough, and it really, every semester is different in terms of the demand that's on you. And so it's not, one semester. So I guess my thought is, like, if a professor has an introduction to, the red folder, and that, things seem to be going well in the lab, or, with their students, or that can change in a semester type or annual basis. And without a refresher on some of those things, it might not be as obvious for the advisors that this is something that they should be proactive in and help. And again, not necessarily forcing any sort of action, but just awareness that there's something that can be done. Even like you said, the resources are there. It's whether or not people are either able to take the steps or see it as necessary. But I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, that's a really helpful suggestion. I appreciate you bringing that up. And it's something that we've been talking about for a while, because we've seen a massive increase in the last 5 years too, just in people seeking us out and saying, I'm noticing things about my student, but I don't know what to do. The other thing I didn't mention earlier that might be helpful for everyone to know, is that we often get phone calls from professors who want us to reach out to the student for them. And I like to clarify, we don't do that outside of like safety situations where someone's imminent safety is a concern. It's both considered like a confidentiality concern, like if the student isn't seeking us out, you know, that's not, a lot of times that ends up backfiring. So I like to let people know that proactively. Often what I'll do is work with faculty members to help them figure out how to draft an email or practice having a conversation with the student about getting to our services. Again, if someone says like this person, I am very imminently concerned that they're going to go hurt someone else or themselves, we are immediately going to get our crisis team involved. But I think there's this kind of generalized expectation of faculty or staff that if they call and tell us about a student, that we'll then call that student and get them in counseling, and that's not true. And I think what you're talking about, talking to faculty and staff more broadly about how to recognize things and then have a direct conversation would be really helpful.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. All right, and Sean?
Well, first, thank you for coming, Sarah. This is very helpful. Very glad that we were able to get you all to come and present to us, as this is very important. I wanted to emphasize some of the points that you made. The first is the usage of the red folder. It kind of takes the guesswork out of how to help students, in my opinion, which is very helpful when you're trying to also help people. I would also say that, for instance, with the counseling service that we have here that's limited, CAPS has a wide amount of resources to where if they may not be able to help you long-term, they can definitely find, you know, resources to assist you in that long-term journey. I also will say that, like, I sought out counseling services and there was no wait time for me. I literally called, set up a screening, and
Awesome.
Literally I was able to grab it. So I just wanted to emphasize some of the points that you mentioned, and also wanted to thank you again for coming.
Thank you I'm glad you had a good experience, and thank you guys for reaching out and asking us to come and help. You know, I know you guys work so hard to help our students, and graduate school it's one of the biggest stressors in life that people will face. I think people don't get enough credit for how stressful the college experience and the graduate school experience is. And I think people do get scared away by, you know, I think there's this myth or there's general talk on campus of like, well, CAPS is overwhelmed, you're gonna have to wait forever. And I think people are often shocked when we're able to help them either immediately or pretty quickly. Again, we're always assessing the situation. Like it's very different if someone's in immediate danger versus if someone is just, they want some assistance adjusting. Both are important issues, but one is a safety issue. So thanks for sharing your positive experience.
Right.
Last thing I'll mention, I'm sorry, CAP services are free. That's really exciting. There is sometimes a charge for, there is usually, sorry, let me get my words correct. Sorry, this head cold has messed me up. Like individual counseling is free. Sometimes folks will extend their sessions sometimes we're able to, if we have good clinical reason, have people go a little further in their counseling. And so we'll offer like an extra 3 sessions, and folks will pay a small copay of like $15 if it's for a little bit longer of counseling. But the first 6 sessions, there's no cost. There's no cost for urgent services or case management services. For psychiatric services, there's generally a charge of $30, but for folks on medical assistance, there's no charge. If you have the student health insurance, that covers it. Most insurances actually cover that. The other resource that I will mention for graduate students, this is just for you guys to have in your back pocket. If you have the school insurance, that United insurance that the university offers, they offer a service called Healthiest You, which offers on-demand counseling and psychiatric services, and they're longer term than CAPS. And I've had students go through both, and both have their pros and cons. The Healthiest You, there's not that session limit on it, but sometimes I think people have said I'm not always able to get the same consistent time every week with the therapist. But if you communicate that that's what you'd like, often they're able to accommodate that. So I do like to let people know that if you have the student health insurance, you have another resource in your back pocket for you if you need that.
All right. Well, again, just to echo Sean, thank you so much, Sarah, for coming and speaking with us. Thank you for that wealth of information. And we'll be sure to get, once you send that email, that out to the assembly. Thank you.
Okay, I'll get that put together. Thank you guys. I hope you have a good rest of your evening.
You as well.
Mhm.